good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Learning Live, possibly even the last Learning Live of 2023. We have not decided if we are going to do one next week or not, but let's call this the last of 2023, and maybe next week will be a bonus. So we are here with Crafty Kris, and she has been creating some darling little holiday scenes, playing with her mixed media, and doing some fun stuff. So without further ado, I'm going to let Kris tell you a little bit more about what she's been playing with and what she's going to share with you tonight. It's all yours, Kris.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Hello, 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 everybody. Whoops, there's my hands. I'm on the side tonight. I just wanted to show off a few of the things I've been playing with in our Christmas. I'm including myself as part of Tim Holtz's team, but in Tim's Christmas 2023 section, he had these darling little, these are the large size. So I'll just give you a comparison here. So we have large and small acrylic pieces that he always likes to leave the decorating up to us. And the bottle brushes or the bottle brush trees, like he has had many different versions of these over the years. And I just wanted to play a little bit. Darlene had this cute little Tim Holtz neighborhood that she created last year. And it was such a great size to include some of these little miniature characters. Now, all of the characters started off being, ooh, my light is very bright, being this sort of ivory color and very shiny. So I played around a little bit to see what would work really well in terms of putting a base coat of some kind down so that you could actually put color on it and create these cute, darling little, this one I've made into an ornament, so it actually hangs. And this one is just a little guy who sits on the, in the town. But the big problem in the beginning, the reason why I had to play around a little bit is because the paint didn't want to stay on the plastic very easily because I use water-based paint. So what I did find is that if you use some kind of a chalk white base paint, the chalk white seems to sit really nicely on top of the plastic. So I literally covered the entire character in this white chalk paint, and it wasn't expensive chalk paint. I think it was Americana something or other that I got from some store, probably the dollar store, but it was enough to seal the entire piece. And you do have to seal the entire piece. You have to cover it from top to bottom because you don't want it chipping. If you leave the bottom exposed, you'll end up getting chipping happening. And over time, the thing will just peel off. So you want to completely cover it with the chalk paint. So that's your beginning for everything, except for this guy. So this guy I actually did with wax. So I got a brown wax and I just waxed the entire figure brown. And then I went in and painted some of the lighter areas of his body with a lighter paint color. And surprisingly, once the wax had time to set, it received the paint very well, which I was surprised about. The paint I used here was black chalk paint, and it gives that kind of fuzzy feel to it. It isn't fuzzy, but it looks like it might be fuzzy in the way that reindeer antlers are. So again, this one I didn't coat. It worked very well, but time will tell. But I do know that these little guys have been completely coated and completely painted over the coating and will last a very long time. The other thing I did with these two guys is I sealed them. So I sealed with matte varnish the Duraclear matte varnish over Santa. So he's not very shiny except on his black boots. And on the snowman, I did the matte varnish everywhere except for his hat. Again, I kept the black shiny. So you can get this in gloss and you can get it in matte. So that is what I did to make sure that these will last a good length of time. Now, interesting enough, I challenged myself not to use the big characters, but to use the little characters. And I wanted to see if I could make an actual ornament out of it. And it, with a very, very fine drill, I drilled right through Santa's hat. Whoops, sorry about that. Right through Santa's hat and had no problem at all. But one of the things you do know about plastic, or if you don't, I'm going to share that now, is that it does heat up. So it gets gummed up if you don't drill in a little bit, pull out, take the plastic off, drill in a little bit more, pull out, take the plastic off until you get through. So you don't want to just try to force the drill right through. You want to drill in, drill out, drill in, drill out, just to keep the tunnel, let's call it, clear. And so it doesn't melt in there and then you get stuck having Santa's head showing your bit from your drill. All right, so that's these guys. Now, what did I have? And I want to show also with the deer, they make the most cute looking table place mats. There we go. So I have a couple of them, and they even look nice just in the ivory color too. You know, if you have one of those really fancy homes that has, I'm going to take this out of the way for a moment so I can put these in screen. So if you have a really fancy home, you can have the ivory and gold color theme, and all of the pieces in the package will hold a place card. So every one of them. So there's one whole package there, 4 reindeer, and they all nicely hold a place setting. So that's another thing I was thinking that these could be used for other than ornaments. And they are lots of fun. And this one is easy because you don't have to do anything but the place card. So I'll clear those away. Just want to talk a little bit more about Santa, or not Santa. Santa is a combination of distress paints and just regular acrylic paints. So just whatever made the color. I use my distress here because I really liked how, oh, come on, focus. I really liked how it kind of made like a bag, it made the bag more than just brown. It was brown and textured. The snowman, I used a combination of the grit snowfall paste, and then I went over with a light layer of the texture paste sparkle, and that was really fun to do. So I'm going to turn off my lights so you can see this better. So you can, not only do you have the texture of the snow, but you can see the sparkle that's there. So I used both the texture paste and the sparkle paste together. My trees turned out really well. I'm so thrilled about my trees, and I'm going to show you how to make the trees tonight. We're going to make the fluffy stuffed tree tonight. This is a combination of the 2 sparkle and snowfall colors, and I'll show you the technique how to build this. And the ornaments on here are simply Nouveau drops. So I tried it with Nouveau drops, and I tried it with Stickles, but Stickles is too flat. You need something that actually kind of makes it look rounded, like a bit of a decoration. The technique for getting the color on is the same in both trees, but the finish is different. So this one I use the texture paste, snowfall texture paste, and the sparkle paste. And this one I didn't use a paste at all. I used the fluffy stuff, and I'll show you that tonight. And some of the Nuvo drops. All right, so I'm going to slightly adjust my camera overhead so we can, oh, wrong way, this way, so you can see what I'm doing. I want to be close enough that you can see the detail that I'm working with, but not too close so that I have room to actually do the painting. So tonight we're working on a tree like this, but I'm going to do a smaller version of it. The first thing you have to do with any kind of bottle brushy kind of decorative element is you have to dampen it. In order for it to take the inks to create the different depths of color, you need to make sure that it's wet and it will absorb. So the first thing I did is I just took my sprayer and just sprayed down my tree and rubbed it in a little bit. And it's going to spatter at you, so you want to make sure that you get it all the way to the top. And don't forget anything. And then you just swipe up the excess water, because you don't want any additional water other than the dampness that you've added to the tree. You're going to want to have a paintbrush that you don't really have any love or care for, which is kind of a lie, because this is got to be my favorite paintbrush, but it is my, what you call my crummy paintbrush. This goes through a huge amount of abuse. I've even lost the cover of it, so I have no idea what paintbrush it is, so I can't even tell you, but it is my favorite because it does all my bad jobs. All right, so what I did is I have 3 colors of green, sorry. I have evergreen bough refill, and I have pine needles refill, and I have rustic wilderness refill. And I started with the evergreen, and you need a good wallop. So 3 drops are what I'm putting on my mat. And I want to make sure that my paintbrush is a little bit damp, but not wet. And I'm soaking up a lot of that ink, and I'm just plopping it in there. So I'm just like literally just plopping it in. I want to get really into the center parts so that there's no white exposure. None of that beige will come through. And it doesn't matter if it's an even color or if it's, you know, a little darker, a little lighter in different spots. That's all part of the joy of the tree, and how trees have different color depending on whether they're in the shade or in the sun. So I am just moving that ink around to make sure that I get it everywhere. And always where you start, it is the darkest, obviously. And you just kind of keep tapping it and moving it around the tree. And once I've got it pretty much covered, I just lightly loosen up by brushing very lightly. Now I know one side is darker than the other side, so I am going to, with my next color, start that color on the other side, and that will balance me out. And I don't need as much of this color. So instead of putting 3 drops, I'm just going to put 1 good drop. And again, I'm going to go in with my paintbrush, and that's the dark side. So I'm going to just lightly sort of pounce. I'm not trying to color everything. I'm trying to just add some depth and some difference. So if you look at it, you can see that there's a change in color. So I'm just going to keep tapping away and make sure I get that upper part covered, because that, for some reason, because it's short, it doesn't want to color as easily. And just make sure you're getting the under parts as well. All right, that's all you need of that. And my last color is my darkest color. I'm just going to take one drop of that, and not even a whole drop because I won't need a lot. And this one is the two blues or two greens, sorry, that I just used, the pine and the evergreen, have a blue tinge to them, whereas the rustic wilderness has now got a little bit more of a yellow to it. And so it's nice to dab in there too. It just dulls out that blueness and brings up some of the yellow. Otherwise, you have a really blue spruce on your hands, which is fine if that's your decor that you're decorating for. But if you're going for something more natural, you want to have a number of different colors. And literally, I'm just like plopping it in there. So now we have all these combinations of colors, darknesses and lightnesses. So I think we're done there. This is a very quick project. Make sure to put your paintbrush in your water so it doesn't stain too much. And I'm just going to quickly dry this. Whoop. Now, if I had just taken the dry tree and tried to apply these colors, it would take a lot more of the ink, excuse me, and a lot more time to get it covered as much as I've got covered here. And that's because it's dry. So by wetting it, what you're doing is you're allowing the little bits of bristle to suck the ink into themselves. So that's why we like to do that. And how do I know it's dry? I just rub it on my hands. If my hands turn green, then it's not dry. All right. So then the next step is to get your Cosmic Shimmer fluffy stuff. And I'm just going to have to, oh, there we go. And my approach to this was just put it in and see what happens. So you have to remember that it will sort of inflate, and you don't want it to be too small. You want those pieces to maybe look a little bit like shelves of snow. Oop, running out. So it's okay for them to attach to each other, because you want it to look like the snow has landed there. And you can do more or less depending on what you want to see. And now I'm going to turn it around. And you can see how fast this goes together. I might even have time for two trees. We'll ask Sherry at the end to see if there's enough time. And where you think it's thin. And the nice thing about this is, even if you get it done and you still feel like you need more, you can just go ahead and put more on there. You can add it to it. Now I got to get my little hands out here, my helping hands, because it gets hot. Are you ready for the magic? And it does take a few minutes to warm up. There we go. We're starting to get a little action. Sorry, got to move my hands a little further down. And you don't want to be hanging over top of this, because when you heat up the brush, it does give off a little bit of a smoke because of the ink. So it's a combination of things going on. You want to keep it moving. There we go. Starting to go. And you want to be careful not to make it too hot because it will burn. Okay, so here's where we're at so far. I'm thinking I need to add a tiny little bit more here because I want it to be thicker looking. And there is no right or wrong about this. Whoops, I'm off camera, sorry. Let's get a little more up there because that's where it should be white. All right, give it another shot. Get my little hands in there. It is not a neat and tidy project, let me tell you. There you go. Sorry, I'm off screen again. There we go. I just love how it all bubbles up. All right. So there's our cute little Christmas tree. Look how snowy he is. All right, we're just going to give that a minute to cool. And I got to be careful I don't, doesn't want to fall over. Okay, so then I am going to add some color to it. And I kind of like purple. And I think I'm going to do purple and gold. So I have Golden Sunset and Violet Galaxy. So we'll see how this all turns out. And I'm literally going to do the same thing I would do when I'm doing a card. And I'm just going to do it a little bit smaller. So I want to add it into places as if it's little ornaments. Whoops, I touched there. So let's add one there. Whoop. Mine's a little bit old, so it's not cooperating as much as I would like it to. So I'll just do one side and maybe that will have enough time to do the second tree. So there's that. Let's get a lid on there. Oops. I always push out some before I begin So I know I can start with a fresh and you can put as much on as you want or as little on as you want. And you just have these cute little Christmas balls decorating. And you can put a star or an angel on top if you're really creative. But I had the idea of these being outdoor trees, how you would decorate them outside in your yard. So there, I've just done half to give you the sense of what that's going to look like finished. And here's the bigger version. So there's the two that we have for tonight. Sherry, do we have time to whip off a second tree?
Go for it.
All right. That's what I like to hear. Okay, so we're going for it. So the second one, I'm going to be using texture paste and sparkle and snowfall. Again, I have to moisten my tree. Just make sure I get all the water in there. Now this is a little bigger, so I may need some additional color, but we'll see how it goes. I usually start with 3 drops for the light. We'll see how far we can go with that. Same procedure. Get out my, sorry, grabbing a wet nap here just to get the water off. Alrighty, and going in. Yeah, I'm gonna need a little bit more, I think. Just pouncing it in there, trying to get into the very inside. Yeah, I think we'll make it. Making sure we got the bottom colored. There we go. So there's the first round of color. Now I can see some white further in there. So I'm just going to kind of go in and see if I can move it around a little more. And the nice thing about this, because it's wet, is it will move. So when you push down, you're not worrying about crushing things. It'll all pop back up because it is wet. There we go. And I'm just brushing it lightly so that it all kind of fluffs up again. A little bit more work here. There we go. All right, color number 2. One big blob on that one. And I like getting the darker one right in at the bottom. Has everybody worked with their trees since they purchased them at the Black Friday sale. I wonder how many people have actually done something with them. Because we've all been so busy with the holiday season already. All right, there's my second color.
We did have a comment from Donna.
Okay.
It said you have better control using the dropper than trying to spray it.
Oh, yes.
So she has experimented with spraying, and I think she's liking this new technique.
Ah, beautiful. Yeah.
And Glenda says she needed this demo and inspiration. So hopefully this is some good ideas that can get your holiday decorating finished.
Yeah.
Or in my case, started.
Yeah. Some of us are in that boat. And I just like the idea, like I will show you how you can put a name card on your Christmas tree too. I forgot. I have that as well. All right. So I'm liking the different colors in my tree. Very happy with that. Put my brush away for a moment. Clean up my mess here. Now, the one thing you do have to do, we got to dry this first, but we're going to have to cover it with a light coating of matte varnish because I found that the texture pastes drew the color out. So rather than staying white or crystal, they ended up green. So I scraped it off and just put a little bit of matte varnish on so that the whole thing would stay. Oh, that's not open. This one's open. Would stay better. So, about a quarter size blob, dollop, whatever you want to call it. And it's okay if this has green in it because you're just lightly going over top. Now, this is where you're going to splatter. So hopefully you've got yourself some kind of proper coverage on your body. And this just gives a little bit of coverage so that, whoop, look at all that ink, so that it won't release the color into the stencil paste or the grit paste. All right, just another quick dry. There we go. Whoop, I should put the lid on there. Don't want that drying out. Okay, so now, we're going to start with our snowfall paste. And I just use a little bit of press and seal, and I actually press it inside. And I do use my yucky. So I've got maybe a quarter's worth of stuff to start. I don't want to have too much stuff out for it to dry. Always put your lid on. You don't want to have it dry out prematurely. Now I'm going to I'm going to use that same brush. That poor brush goes through a lot. I'm going to try and get as much ink off as possible. My water's green now. Some of my old tissues. Just going to soak them up so I can get that green off. There we go. That's good enough. Dry all those. Okay, so now I'm sticking my paintbrush in, and I am just literally going to shove it in there too, like I did with the ink, but more on the surface than right deep down inside. And you want to move it around. You don't want it too glumpy. And you're probably going to have to go at it a couple of times. And keep pulling at your I'm getting too much green. If you're lucky enough to have two really good yucky paintbrushes, that would probably be better. There we go. All right. We need some more. Again, another quarter-size dollop. And remember, this goes translucent. So all you're going to see is like a crystal effect from this. It's when we add in the sparkle paste that you get the sparkly bits. There. Now it's starting to stay white a little better. And if you get too much in one spot, just pull it out. And move it around. And I think I need just a tiny bit more. This time I'm just going to take a dime's worth. And I'm pushing in my press and seal stuff so that it pushes the air out of the container. And anything that touches the underside of the press and seal is going to be able, I can scrape that off and use it. Whoops, it's a little heavy. There we go. Trying to even it out a little bit. There we go. And this will dry translucent. So we have to dry this before we put on our sparkle paste. I'm just going to move that to the side. It's gotten a bit green, so it's not going back in the container. And I just keep it moving. I just want to get a crusty surface. That should be good. And now just clean my brush a bit. And you know what? I better clean this because I want to put sparkle on now. Nice thing about the paste, when it gets on your mat, you just take a scraper and scrape it off when it's dry. And this, just going to clean this a little bit. All right. Now we get the sparkle paste. It's fun. And it's a lot easier to use. It's very, very liquidy. So I'm going to put I'm actually going to put a dime's worth out because it spreads much easier than the other paste. Put the lid on that. And then just run that over the top surface. It looks white right now, but it goes completely clear with sparkle on it. And that's what makes all the glitteriness. There we go. I'm going to dry that off. Now this one, I don't know that I can get it to look exactly like its little counterpart because it does need a good 12 hours to dry completely, but you'll be able to see the similarity. Okay, and I'm just going to push that down in so the air is out. With your paste, you really have to take care not to let them dry out because once they start that process, it can continue even when you have the lid on. So you want to make sure that you're not leaving the lid off for too long. All right, so it's very hard for you to see, but let me see if I can. You can see a little bit of the sparkle there. It's kind of hard on film to get that to go, but as you turn it, you will see it. And I can see it easily with my bare eyes. All right, now we're going to decorate. This time we're going to use 2 reds, a glitter red and a flat red. So let's see. Whoop! This one comes out quite well. Again, I'm only going to do one side for now, just to give you the idea. All right. And then I am going to use, now that one I put on is a glitter red, so the base is clear and the sparkle inside is red. Now this is a matte red. And this is Nouveau Drops Red Berry. And I'm going to do it slightly smaller. So we have big and little ornaments. I can always add more if I feel I need to. Oops. That one needs to get put. Put another little one up there. Oops, I'm shaking. And there we have our 2 reds going on there. Now, what you're seeing here is whiter than it will dry. If I can show you the dry one, you can see that it's quite red compared to what it is on the freshly the freshly plucked one. All right, so there's your 2 Christmas trees. This one I did a lighter grouping of shades. I don't think I went as far as the wilderness on that one. So I like 3 because I feel that it really gives you a really nice piney mixture of colors. So these are the 2. Here, let me put these down here. The 2 with the glitter and grit paste, the snow paste, and these are the 2 with the fluffy stuff. And I was going to show you one last thing. How am I doing for time? Oh, I'm okay. Where did it go? Ah, there it is. So I manufactured this crazy little doodad out of a paper clip. All I did was straighten it out, and then I turned it back twice. So I turned it back this way, and then I tried to loop it around so it would have a nice finish. So I made this out of a green paper clip. That's how hard it was. And all you do is you push it onto your tree, like so. And then you find your name tag. Where did I put all those name tags? I had them here a minute ago. Oh, here's one right here. And then you can put your name tag right on it, and it can sit on your table. Whoa, if I can get it. And there you go. There's your table ornament with your name tag on it. And of course, you would do it all perfectly. I'm kind of doing it quickly. So just a couple of ideas of things you can actually do with those wonderful 3D things you have at from our friend Tim Holtz. And I think that's it for me. Are there any questions?
I haven't seen too many questions. Everybody was very inspired and enjoying everything that you've been playing with. I think you've really shown everyone how you can take those Tim Holtz items, whether it's the characters or the trees, and use a lot of what you already have.
Oh, yeah.
Like Nuvo drops, like your pastes, like the fluffy stuff, and just play around.
Yeah. Yep. And, you know, they are miniatures, so it's always good not to use this kind of a brush when you're trying to get that kind of a painting. I'm sure you all know that. So, you know, if you don't have those tiny brushes at the house, it's always good idea to, I usually buy them in 12s because I go through them quite a bit for all these little tiny details. Like, I don't know if you can see it, but Santa actually has blue eyes.
Well,
so I read that somewhere. I read that somewhere. All right. So there you go. A bunch of things.
On behalf of everyone watching, I will echo Glenda's thought to say thank you for your time and your talent. And folks, thank you for joining in tonight. I hope you are inspired to keep making those holiday crafts, and we will see you right back here tomorrow night for What's New.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.